About 1/3 of the population is consuming artificial sweeteners. And it's a pretty controversial topic, even in my household between my husband and myself. So today I want to open up the conversation and share some articles about artificial sweeteners with you guys. So first of all, let's talk about what are artificial sweeteners and what kind of food products are they in? And what is the impact in the GI tract and the microbiome? And what are some ways to overcome and a holistic approach to eating sweetened food? Or what are some alternatives that you can take? So in the US, the FDA has actually approved 5 different sweeteners or artificial sweeteners: asulfame, aspartame, neotame, saccharin, and Sucralose. And I've said probably some of those wrong. Artificial sweeteners are often used in the assistance of weight loss by decreasing the amount of calories consumed by sugar. So let's talk about some of the products with aspartame. Aspartame is 200 times sweeter than sucrose. It's found in your Diet Coke, your Diet Pepsi, your Coke Zeros, or Trident gum, and it is talked about as a health drink, but it actually can cause weight gain when it's combined with a carbohydrate. Aspartame actually inhibits the production of the brain chemicals that signifies fullness. So think of that, guys. If you're drinking your Diet Coke and having it in combination with a carbohydrate, you don't have the feeling that release of our leptin and ghrelin secretion in the brain isn't telling ourselves that we're full. So it's on override, and it can actually lead to weight gain. Now, sucralose or Splenda is found on foodfacts.com in over 5,000 different products. It is used so often because of its ability to be in high heat and a wide variety of conditions with different pHs. And its sweetness is over 600 times more sweet than sugar. You would see this in your Diet V8 juices, Gatorades, low-calorie, Powerade Zeros, Yoplait light yogurts, Smucker's sugar-free jelly. It is produced by actually chlorinating the sugar. So there's really not enough research on the effect in humans, but in animal studies, it's been shown to shrink the thymus gland and cause an enlarged liver and kidneys. Saccharin. This is actually 200 to 700 times more sweet than sugar, sucrose, and it's rapidly excreted in the urine. And it is used a lot less often because it is not as stable in high heat, but it is found in your Diet Mountain Dew drinks and your Fantasia Zeros and your Diet Cokes, so oftentimes combined with other sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners are fermented by the gut bacteria in the colon, which produces a lot of bloating and gas. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Nature showed that there's actually damage to the bacteria in the GI tract in this process. So I want to talk to you guys about other solutions. So an option, if you have a sweet tooth, is to switch to a stevia in your drinks. So making your own lemonade with stevia. If you do bake with stevia, it does change the flavor, so it's not as good used in baking. Other options are to use your fruits, like real fruit. I use bananas or dates to sweeten my baked goods to help with the cravings. The addition of complex carbs, high fiber, and more protein can actually help with your sugar cravings. And to get over an addiction of aspartame, you can try to add in D-L-theanine to actually help overcome that addiction to that artificial sweetener. Another option is to, with your protein, add in a dose of chromium, at least 200 milligrams, which will also help decrease your desire to want to go to sweets. One of the quotes that I have read by Robin Chutkin, she's an MD. She wrote the book, The Microbiome Solution. And she said, so if the story about artificial sweeteners seems too good to be true, getting the sweetness without the calories or the side effect, it is. And it's interesting because, and through different texts, I spent my entire morning looking at these different articles and YouTube channels here that my husband asked me to watch. He's like, watch this one. Research shows artificial sweeteners can mess up your gut. But we learned here that he says, there's no way.
Back with another educational video.
And then I spent the time popping through all these different case studies about sucralose and all these added sweeteners and what's the impact on the gut, studying about how it's broken down and what impact it's having on humans versus animal studies. And to be quite honest with you guys, all of the information has led to an inconclusive result. Looking at holistic health and feeding our body the nutrients that it needs, I almost intuitively throw all this out the window. I know that we want to be feeding our gut fiber. I know we want to be feeding our body whole food. So why is this conversation even taking place, right? Is it so we can excuse ourselves into eating processed and packaged foods? Because when I'm looking at this list of the 5,000 different food groups that you can see these artificial sweeteners are added into, I'm going to scan up so you can see this. None of this stuff is what I would call eating for your health or eating for nutritional benefits. Eating peppermints, candies. I mean, our gums are even candies at this point. So much of the sweeteners in our drinks. If we're drinking water, then this conversation even isn't at play. There's no place for it. There's no need for it. I'm looking at the list here. Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi. I'm like, drink water, Sprite Zero, Trident gum. I'm like, brush your teeth. Use tea tree oil to cleanse your teeth rather than going to these gums with these added sugars. Although in another one of my studies, this holistic dental care book, Stephen Lawrence wrote this book, and he's using holistic dentistry and actually suggests using xylitol to help protect the teeth. And another book, 8 Weeks to Vibrant Health, MD Kathleen Barnes writes about our gut health and talks about how these different studies are showing that it does impact the gut and it actually leads to weight gain. And she has referenced a couple different resources, holisticmed.com with Splenda that you can see here, and you guys can do your own research on this stuff. I've just spent 2 hours doing it and it feels non-conclusive, and I can't help but drop back into my own body and my own methods in eating and what I feel is natural and pure and best for our bodies, which is eating from the land. Does chlorinated sugar sound like it's holistic and natural and raw and real? No, not to me. It honestly doesn't. Sucralose is chlorinated sugar. So why would I chlorinate sugar and then eat it and think that it's going to have no effect on my body whatsoever? Sugar alone is one of the main guys that actually strips our stomach lining of or strips our stomach acid, and it leads to a whole host of issues, different cancers and all these other things. Eating sugar in our mouth causes a lot of bacteria growth in there that shouldn't be there, and it impacts the saliva, and we're swallowing our saliva all day. So why would I chlorinate sugar and then eat it and think that it's going to have no impact on my body whatsoever. A lot of these additive artificial sweeteners are not doing our body anything good. It might not, like looking at these different studies, looking at this YouTube channel, this guy here, he might be saying, oh, okay, well, it didn't cause an insulin spike, so it's not bad for me. And I just beg to differ. The time when they started to introduce artificial fats, we brought in canola oil. We brought in, I can't believe it's not butter. It wasn't butter. It had done more damage. It brought in more heart disease and more problems in the GI tract, making these artificial foods. My whole point in this stance on artificial sweeteners is to actually go back to eating food that's found in nature. So if you have a sweet tooth, go and pick some berries. Go and find your blueberries and your strawberries and your blackberries and your thimbleberries and your elderberries. Start to eat real food. With that, it drops out all of the other questioning and all the other chaos. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? I have to go with Robin here, and I have to question and think if it seems too good to be true, that there's sweetness without any calories or without any side effects, then it probably is. We need to come back to health and to using food as a medicine. It was an oath that doctors used to have to take. And this isn't using food as medicine. When we're talking about how it's put in high heat pressure, how it can be changed and tweaked with the pHs, this isn't food in nature. This is food in labs. And so ideally, that's the place I come from with like my holistic and functional nutrition background, is using food as medicine and using food to start to heal the body from the inside out. Then the ideals are to start to lean into the solutions that I offered. Start to lean into the solutions of combining your macros together where you're satiated and fulfilled, eating fiber and eating protein and adding in some chromium to help so you don't have those cravings like you want, or adding in some amino acid supplements like L-glutamine on your tongue if you have a ton of cravings. Now you heard that these sweeteners are anywhere from 200 to 700 times more sweet than sugar. So if you have been consuming artificial sweeteners for a long time, then you're probably going to notice that you have an increase in cravings when you go to drop them out. So be aware of the impact it has on your taste buds, as you're going to think that the taste of celery or broccoli or carrots no longer has any flavor to you, or you can't appreciate the flavors from our food in nature. This is really, as a mom and as a health coach, where I seem to feel the most moved by in this topic, is when we start to remove processed foods from our diet, we actually start to notice a change in our taste buds and the pH of our saliva and our stomach. We actually start to have our taste buds change as we start to want and crave different things. So for me, before I took out sugars from my diet, all I wanted was sugar. I could eat so much of it, I wanted more and more. And I noticed that with my children. I have 3 boys, 4, 3, and 1. And when they have artificial sweeteners, they get really amped. Like they start running around and screaming, and they'll even cry if we tell them no, they can't have it. Now, I told you when I started this video that we are a divided household. So my husband is pro artificial sweeteners, and I am pro real food. And so what I see is I don't want to make my kids into this test subject. I don't want them to have problems with the liver function or the impact on the brain from these different chemicals. I'm seeing through this different research that it's getting 85% of Splenda is getting eliminated through the fecal matter. And then, then this one for aspartame, it's just being excreted through the urine and it has no impact on the body. Is it talking about the liver, what's happening with the liver? Is it talking about what's happening with the metabolism? Is it talking about your cravings and how after you have it, you want more sweetness? No. Is it talking about how you no longer have cravings for carrots and bok choy after? No. And so there's not enough studies done. And for me, I always like to just take a little bit of a pause button. If we don't have the research on humans and we're not really sure and it's really not clear on how it's impacting the body, then I'm playing it safe and I'm going to continue to feed my children food from the land. I'm going to continue to avoid the packaged and processed foods that we're really not sure on its impact. Yes, over 24 hours or yes, after 2 hours of eating it, we might not see an insulin spike or we might see it in rats and we might see it in obese rats, but not regular, or I should say people with a normal body mass index. But it's got to have an impact. And that's me leaning into my mother intuition, leading into my, I guess, not even considering what every single one of these articles have said that I've just spent the last couple hours researching. But just leaning into that intuition and knowing that I personally, and as a coach and as a mother, I would personally not put it into my body. I would personally not like to be that test subject. And I personally don't want to put that strain on my different organs as it starts to eliminate a sweetener that has been chlorinated, that has been put at high heats, that has been processed. Ultimately, when we eat, for myself and my children and my clients and all of what I like to teach, is coming back to nature, coming back to what we can find in nature to eat. And it definitely crowds out and it eliminates a lot of the confusion. Can I eat a banana, Carly? Yeah, let's go get a banana. I know where it's coming from. I understand the source. I don't have to be confused about what is happening in the process. And you can see from some of the stuff that I listed before that actually it might not be sucralose in a silo that's the issue. It may be it in combination with sucralose in combination with a carbohydrate that actually causes weight gain. It may not be that it's okay for me because I have a healthy regular body mass index, like my body mass is within normal range or on the low end. It might not act the same for somebody who has a higher body mass index or somebody who's obese or morbidly obese. Someone who came with a genetic disposition to obesity versus somebody who didn't come with that genetic disposition. And now, as I'm starting to talk about this and kind of peel back the differences in all these different humans, is it now fair to say that there are so many factors? And is it now fair for me to say that in general, how I feed myself, how I feed my children, how I teach my clients to think about food is to always be using it as our medicine. And when I look at packaged food items, I really want to see that I can pronounce them all, that I have access to these foods from my own grocery store, and that I could make it myself that way, and that it's in 5 or less items in the back. That's all whole food. And when we're eating a specific whole food and using food as medicine, then this alone will correct cravings and challenges that you might be experiencing and feeling like, I have to get something, I need something sweet. And if you are feeling that way, like, I need something, I have to get something sweet, it's showing you that there is some sort of an addiction to that substance. And so much like when I have people remove caffeine from their diet, they feel like they need something. They feel like they're like, something's missing out. I need something. I want something different. This is a time that we know that we are dependent on the substance. And when there's a dependence, it's time to take yourself and do a detox and do a cleanse. And so there is a hump getting over some of those things. Like, that's why I suggest some of these amino acids as supplementation. That's why I suggest adding in the fruits. And over time, what you'll see is that palate change. Over time, you're going to see that your cravings change. So thank you so much for diving in. Here's my 2 cents on the whole thing. After me sitting and studying and looking at different books of different doctors that I really trust and believe in, and in my own studies and education, beyond these different articles listed here, I hope it allows you some chance and freedom to start to experiment yourself, and also maybe not falling for the traps and being like, hey, I can have sugar, it's 300 times sweeter than regular sugar, and I can have it all day long and have no side effects. I would just start to question that. I would just personally start to question that. And here's my 2 cents for what it's worth. I'm grateful that you're here joining me on my channel again for more education to get yourself to your best ideal state of health and wellness. And if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe to this channel. I'm here talking truth with you guys. I'm here talking health. And I hope that this helps you on your journey to getting yourself to that place of health from the inside out. Have a great day.